Well, welcome back. This will be the last installment on the Tascam 122 Mark III that in the last video I swapped out the motors in, rebuilt the motor and put it into this transport that I had previously rebuilt. And just as a refresher, I had some instability problems with wow&flutter. And so now I've got 35, maybe 40 hours of runtime on it. I want to make the final tests and document how it's running for the owner. This will serve for that. I also want to do the high frequency roll-off test on this, since I'm aware of that now, and I'll test all these. I did treat the erase head with the alpha graphene coating. I did not, however, lap this erase head. So I just want to get this set up and I'll run these tests and see where we're at. This Sony tape is the one that is known, or thought at least, to be the worst offender, having the most roll off after a number of plays. And so I'll try this one first and see how it does. And the way my procedure on this is just to record 10, 20, 30, or 20, 30, 40 seconds of signal. This will be a 15 kilohertz signal at minus 10 dB, and I think that's a more than fair test. It might be better down at minus 20 dB, but I think this is, if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen here. And then I'll play back 10 seconds of that, and I'll do that 10 times. And then on the 11th playback, I'll let it run through to the unrecorded 10-second portion and notice any attenuation on the meters. And I'll just use my T100 for this because I like the visualization of the graphics. Okay, so there's, and I realize that I'm on minus 5 dB here on the level on the T100. Just pretend that that's 0, because all we're doing here, this is just a comparison. It doesn't matter what the actual amplitude is. Okay, so I'll just show you what I'm doing here, and then I'll fast forward through the rest of this. So again, just pretend that minus 5 dB is 0. I can set the levels anywhere I want to on this, but I mistakenly set it to the top 0 instead of the middle 0. And I immediately lost track of how many plays I did, so I'm just running it through here. This will be the last one, so this was 12 playbacks, and I'll let this one run through, and right there is where it hit the unplayed back section. So it looks like about a dB to me of attenuation after 12 plays on the worst tape that has this issue apparently. So let's try it again with a more conventional tape, which would be the D60, the TDK. I think this will be more conventional, what people will be using. And bear in mind, this does not seem to have this problem on Type 2 or Type 4 tapes. It seems to be exclusive to the Type 1s, although I have not done a lot of testing with that. All right, so I've got this one set back up to 0, and I know I'm reading a little bit of you're reading a little bit of parallax here. It looks like it's a little bit over 0, so let me just see if I can get that close to the camera. So it looks to me like I'm about down a half a dB. So that will be our reference. Let's say, minus 0.5 dB is the reference. Okay, just do this a couple times to show you here. And then we'll fast forward through the rest. And again, for whatever reason, I just completely lost track of the numbers. I think I was daydreaming. Okay, so 11 on this one. And watch those meters about right here. Okay, so I'm calling that half a dB or less on this one, because that's that's about what it looks like from my angle. And I think that's acceptable. Okay, this will be a playback frequency sweep. This will be from 31 to 14 kilohertz, 31 hertz to 14 kilohertz. And what I'll do on this one is
calibration. The next tone is a reference tone of 315 cycles per second. It is recorded at minus 20 decibels level. Note the output meter reading as a reference.
Of course, he says minus 20, but it's actually minus 24.
20 decibels level. Do not change the volume control hereafter.
And I'm pretty close to that. I'm at about minus 23 and a half. Okay, so I'll just let a couple of these run through, and then I'll fast forward through the rest of this and chart it out. This way actually turned out working really well for me, rather than trying to write down. He doesn't give a lot of tone. He only gives a second or two or three and so it's hard to keep up with it without stopping the tape on every one. So I started videotaping this just so I could go back and review it, and then make my own spreadsheet with it. So this turned out to be a good thing.
(63 cycles per second).
Okay, so we'll do that, and then I'll fast forward the rest. And I know that the T100 is a better visual indicator than the sound technology is here, but I prefer to use the sound technology on this test because it gives me actual numbers rather than just a bar graph. Okay, here comes the last one.
14,000 cycles per second.
So here, if you want, you can pause this and look at the spreadsheet. This is the extent of my Excel knowledge, and it's just one I downloaded that somebody else had made up. So there's the playback frequency response out of the manual, of the service manual, and then here is overlaid that against the actual curve on the spreadsheet. And so this is in factory spec. And again, that's the playback signal off a calibration tape. That is not the recorded signal and then played back, because that includes all the emphasis and bias and EQ in the deck. So this is done with an official calibration tape. So now let's do record playback frequency response test. Just a second, get this set up here. I'm not really getting any input signal for some reason. Give me just a second. Okay, got it set back up now. What I'll do here is run a frequency sweep and then do the 0 dB distortion level at the end. Okay, so this is just monitoring the recording. And that first one there is off because I didn't set it to, I was monitoring the input, not the output. All right, let's rewind it. Now we're just playing back that recording, which is the correct way to do these. Okay, so let's just zero it to give us a plus or minus. And so I'm using 1,000 hertz as my datum. And there you can see a minus, 3 dB roll off at about 35 hertz. And then on the treble end, looks like I'm about around 18.5 kilohertz, which is correct for this deck. And it's like I'm laying down usable signal to about 24 and 25 on the left channel. So my record head is in proper alignment to my repro head, and there's no problems here. I actually have this, you can see that I've done the external adjustment on it. I've actually over biased this about 2 dB, only because I kind of know that that's where these sound good. And so this is the distortion sweep. I'll fast forward through this. I'm also looking for uniformity between the left and right channels. Now, I should say I've already done all these tests previously, but now that I have some runtime on the deck, I'm just verifying that everything remains stable and is good before I send it back to the owner. Okay, so my 3% number is up around plus 7 dB. And then at around 0, I've got around 0.5% distortion, which is really quite good. That would go up a little bit. If I underbiased it, we'd probably hit that plus 8 dB peak. But this is all externally adjusted, and so the owner can do whatever they want. I just want to confirm my noise floor and make sure the Dolby's working for them correctly. So I'm going to pick this up thinking that I looked in the camera and it didn't look like you could see what I was doing, so I'm just lifting it up here so you can see. Okay, that's Dolby B. So around 66, 67, 67 I mean, minus 67. And then on Dolby C, Looks like around 70, pretty much 74, minus 74, 73 to 74. I believe the spec on this is minus 76. However, I have the top off this and a lot of electronics in the room and a lot of electronic noise in the room. So I'm usually down 1 or 2 dB from where things are. Okay, here's the playback. Just fast. It doesn't change. Okay, so now, like I say, with 35, 40 hours of runtime on it, I'd like to confirm that my motor replacement is stable. And if you look at the meters here on this old tape, this old RCA tape, you can see how completely worn out it is. This is recorded at about 0 dB. And that's the reason for all these dropouts. And of course, every time it hits a dropout, it has to recalculate and all that. So it's kind of a pain, but it's still probably the best tape I have. I think what I'll do here is fast forward and then turn it around and use the other side. The other side is much less used than the side A is. Yeah, I'm just hitting dropouts, so I'll just flip it around. All right, let's try it this way. I'll test this at the beginning, middle, and end of the tape. And I'll use the left channel. This seems to be the more stable one. And let's just see if it was tracking about where it was when I first did the test, and that I'll link to that video here. That's roughly the middle. I really can't see this very well. I'm off to the side and the cameras are to the left, so I'm kind of guessing. That was about 0.033 when I first tried this. And that is, it's right there. It's right where it needs to be. I think that was the end of the tape. Anyway, let's just check our speed here one last time, and it hasn't really changed, maybe gone down 0.04%, but I'm just going to tweak that, try to get it back as close as I can to 0. And I'm happy that this is performing the way it should, and that it should give them good service for a long time. Okay, somewhere right in through here should be good. So the point is, it has been stable after all of the hours, and I feel good about the way that we decided to repair this one. I'm going to end this with just an overview of aesthetics on this deck. It came into me with multiple scratches all over. It had stickers from the studio it was in, and the adhesive on those stickers had started to break down the top coat on the face. And so I did quite a bit of work to restore this. If you look closely, you'll see some of the touch-up work, but from a normal viewing distance from 2-3 feet away, it looks brand new. And because I had to do so much polishing and touch-up on it, it really turned out nice, and I'm quite pleased with how it looks now. So there it is. Thank you once again for watching. Wish you all a happy and blessed New Year, and we'll see you on the next one.